Olá a todos. Hello, everybody. I'm going to speak in Portuguese first, and then I'm going to English. Sejam bem-vindos à segunda mostra de cinema árabe feminino. Estamos na reta final, estamos apresentando filmes desde o dia 19 de maio e vamos até amanhã, dia 27 de junho. A Mostra de Cinema Árabe Feminino é uma realização do Centro Cultural Banco do Brasil e uma produção da Partizane Filmes. Essa é o último debate da nossa mostra. Estamos na constelação Lua Vermelha, que é uma homenagem à cineasta Jocelyne Saab, e teremos essa conversa incrível sobre o filme Era Uma Vez em Beirute, com as duas atrizes do filme, a MAAKAROUN e a Michele TYAN, e teremos a mediação da FEDRA RODRÍGUEZ. Antes da gente começar, só alguns avisos. Primeiro, se você está acompanhando isso em português e quer ouvir a voz original das participantes falando em inglês, existe um link no chat para acessar o link do YouTube em inglês. Desculpa. Então, tem esse link no chat para poder acessar um outro canal que é na língua original, em inglês. Porque por aqui, nesse link em português, vocês ouviram a voz da perfeita Raquel de Souza, nossa tradutora. E deixa eu ver aqui. Acompanhem as nossas redes sociais. Amanhã nós teremos um sorteio do livro BEIRUT no ar, da irmã do Maidan. Então, acompanhem lá no nosso Instagram, no nosso site. Bom, é isso, tenho toda uma boa conversa e agora eu vou falar em inglês. And now the English part. Thank you for attending this event. The Arab Women's Film Festival in Brazil is being produced by Centro Cultural Banco do Brasil and Partizane Films. This is the last event from the festival. We are presenting films and Q&As and roundtables since May 19th. And it's going to end tomorrow, June 27th. And this is the last talk, the last Q&A. It's about the film Once Upon a Time in Beirut. And this film takes part in the Red Moon Constellation, which is a tribute to Jocelyne Saab. So we have the two main actresses of the film, Michele TYAN and MAAKAROUN, and it's going to be moderated by FEDRA Rodriguez. And before we start, just a few notes. If you would like to follow this conversation with the Portuguese simultaneous translation, you can have the link. You can find the link in the YouTube chat. That you can go to the Portuguese translation one. It's going to be translated by Raquel de Souza, our amazing translator. Follow our Instagram, our social media. You can watch the films until tomorrow in our website, cinemaarabefeminino.com. And I think that's it. Have everybody a good conversation. Fedra, pode começar.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to take part of this film festival, and moreover to have a direct chat with Michele and MYRNA. It is amazing, because the first time I saw the movie was 2014, and it was by chance. In fact, I was organized also an Arab film festival, and I took it. It was by chance that I found Jocelyne Saab films, and I read each one of them, and then I decided to choose which one, because her story, her background seemed perfect for me. Then I decided to choose one of the films to show in the film festival here in Florianópolis, South Brazil. Then it was Once Upon a Time Beirut. So it is amazing to see and to talk directly to the two actresses that had the opportunity to work with Jocelyne Saab. Then I'd like to ask each one of you, because how it was the first time you met Jocelyne, how she invited you to take part of the film as the two actresses, the two main characters, and how you felt that. And then we can start with Michele. She can tell, and then after that, MYRNA will also give her opinion about and her ideas, what she reminds about it.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm always very proud to talk about my experience with Jocelyne. It was a great experience. I met her in Paris in 1992. I was studying cinema in Paris, and I was doing some reports for a Lebanese magazine about Lebanese people doing things in Paris. And then I went to do an interview for her, and she talked to me about her project of the movie, and she was doing another project, a retrospective about Lebanese cinema before the war. And then she told me, I need a trainee. Do you know someone who is interested? I shouted, I'm interested. And that was the beginning of my life with Jocelyne, that it was maybe for 1 year and a half, I began to work with her straight away. She was still, because as you know, the movie is done with some archives. So she was still in the process of putting together all this archive, trying to find the sources for the rights. And then I was with her at this stage. We came back together to Beirut during the summer, trying to find who was from where we were going to bring the rights, and to print, because that time it was the positive and the negative that we were printing to do the editing. And the editing process had begun. Begun in September after the summer, and I was training with her during the editing process. And then when she wrote the story, in the first stage, it was our story, Jocelyne and me, going to find the movies and the archives and meeting weird people and weird spaces. And little by little, the screenplay changed. And then she decided that it's 2 young persons. And then she asked me to be one of them. And I told her, no, I'm into directing and I will not be the actress. And then when we did the casting in Beirut, and I went to many universities to ask for girls to come and do a cast, and I was the second, I did the second person during the casting. And then after the cast, I told her, you know what? I would like to do it. It was really nice, and I was it was a great experience. I was 19 years old. I was discovering cinema. I was discovering through Jocelyne and her generosity all this world. We were writing together. We were thinking together, and she was giving me everything as a gift, and that was marvelous. So this is. I talked a lot. Myrna, if you want.
Yeah, I heard that Myrna, she was also so as young as you were at that time, right, Myrna? And but you were geared towards acting. You worked as you studied drama, right?
Actually, I studied filmmaking, but I was acting since the age of 15 on stage. I took workshops, and it was my dream to become an actress. But, you know, I grew up during the war like Michelle. So I thought it would never happen. And with Jocelyne, I think I was already at the film school. I was 17, and I saw an ad for this casting, and a friend who was a filmmaker, also a student, he said, you have to go. And I was like, no, they will never take me. And then I went, and it was in a very weird hotel. They emptied the room, and Michelle was there, and I had to say some lines with her. And of course I was euphoric, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. When you're 17 and it was your dream, you know, you were like, oh, and I didn't think they would choose me, because there were like hundreds of girls coming. And yeah, and I met Jocelyne for the first time at this casting place. She was sitting with other people, I don't know, 2 friends of her or people who worked on the movie. I don't remember them very well. But I remember Michelle. I think we did the scene together. It was fun, and I fell in love with Jocelyne the first time I met her. She's a very warm person, kind, yes, and as Michelle said, very generous on many levels, you know. So this is how it started. And then we became friends, and I became the godmother of her son. And with Michelle and her, we spent a lot of time together. So she's a teacher, a friend, a sister. She was an amazing filmmaker also on many levels. And she also advised me on my work and the movies I did. She was a great mentor as well.
So that was the point, because when I shown the film here in Florianópolis, one of the things that really surprises the audience is that the film does not have a linear narrative. So how did you feel when you received the screen, the whole story, when it was ready, after, when as Michelle said, after 5 or 4 years she was researching, and she took it was a gap between A Suspended Life and Once Upon a Time Beirut, between one fictional movie and another one, and it took her 4 or 5 years to compose all this this wonderful movie. But it has a different narrative style, different from what people are used to. And how did you, because you were too young, how did you feel about the story? Did you feel that it was just confusing because the audience here got, you know, what is that? I cannot follow the did you feel the same?
I can answer from my point of view. I was on the editing, so we were constructing the movie before the shooting of the 2 girls. I call them, I'm 2 part in this film. So we were constructing the editing with a very renowned editor, and every step was to talk about the city through the movies, and how the filmmakers of the time had this look on this city, and how we arrived to the war after this. So everything was studied, but it was really hard. It was a very, very long process. The editing started in maybe September, but the shooting took place in April maybe. So we had a first structure that was really elaborated. We knew that here the girls had to come in and come out to let the story work. We went to Beirut before to see where were the locations, so what the location inspired Jocelyne to write the scenes. And it's right, the scenes were just, it's not linked, but we understood, I think, and I think MYRNA saw the editing before, so she knew what we were talking about. It's not that we were just on, for my part, I was not jumped. I knew where I was going and why we were doing these scenes, and why suddenly we are in 70s clothes, suddenly we are in 30 clothes, suddenly we are back in this big cinema room with the old guy. It was all linked, but from my side, I was there in an everyday basis for months, so I was part of the process, and it was really my school, cinema school. I was doing a filmmaking school at that time in Paris, but I think I learned much more on this experience than at school, because it was as a baptism of filmmaking, this great experience.
Well, for me, I took over after the film. I was assisting Jocelyne after. So my part of working with her closely, not as an actress, came after the film. But I remember I was confused because Michelle was much more, you know, knowing about each part. I don't know. I don't even remember if I saw an editing. I don't remember. I remember I was sometimes confused. And I just played the scene as it is and enjoyed it and had fun with it. And even when I saw the movie the first time, I was confused. And I was young also. I was not knowing about all these parts of history and all the stories. It took me maybe 10 times, after 10 times watching the film, to understand that's actually linked, and it all makes sense after. When you know the history of the country and all what happened, it makes sense. But surely people in Brazil or even in Europe, they would be totally confused, and it's complicated. But it's a wonderful work she did. It's really wonderful research and idea. It's wonderful.
I would like to add one thing. I think now, 20 years later, this film has more meaning than at the time. At the time, we were just going out from the war. So everything was too raw, still in our deep inside. Now, when I watched it 2 years ago, I was astonished by her vision, really. What we were constructing on the editing, and me, I was a part of it, but I'm not the one who construct. I was just the spectator of this. It was really brilliant because there was a vision about the past just after the war. And now when I saw it, it's so meaningful. So I don't know if you can perceive this, but as a Lebanese in Lebanon now, when I watched the film 2 years ago, I was really very happily surprised about the maturity that this film took with years.
In fact, I ask that because it is, in fact, as a non-linear narrative, it is bizarre for those who are not acquainted with the Lebanese history. They feel, you know, well, what's going on here? And moreover, in Europe or maybe in Brazil, because even if we have a lot of Lebanese descendants, we still have an idea, just an idea of the countries that make part of the Arab world. There is a lot of a mixture of prejudice and some questions and doubts, and they always think about Islam, they associate Islam, and they don't think that the country has many aspects and features that are particular. For example, we can see the Christian part of Beirut, for example. They cannot imagine that there is a Christian part in Beirut. They think that all of them are Islamic people. So this is something that was hard to explain. And even more to explain and to discuss after, by the end of the film festival, to discuss and try to explain to the audience what Jocelyne Saab tried to tell us with the movie. And there is also something I would like to talk about. You were too young at the time, as we said before, and but you were too from Beirut. You're too from Beirut, right? And how did you see Beirut at that time, not nowadays, but at that time, if after making the film, you see the city from another point of view, if that changed the gaze you had about your own city, and how did that happen?
Shall I go ahead? Well, I didn't know my city because I grew up in the shelter because of the war. I just knew I grew up in the Christian part, like Michelle. So I knew the way to school and the way to the dance class and home and maybe some mountains and a bit the seaside. And I was not allowed to cross to the, let's say, to the western part of the city, which is the mostly, let's say, Muslim area. But thanks to the movie, I crossed and I discovered the other part, and I was, it was amazing because I discovered my city and even my country was just clean. We went to the south, we went to different parts, and yes, thanks to her, I discovered, and I changed my whole way of seeing the situation and the country and the war and the people. And yes, this was what I can say. I mean, this was very touching also to cross and see the other part, and not have a fear, because you grow up with fear. The other, we don't know the other, so we judge and we have presumptions. And actually all this changed, and not only in my country but outside the country, and with the other wars and the other conflicts. I have a different point of view since then.
I had the chance of, to live in Beirut, the chance during the war, I don't know, but I was here during the war, but my family was not only in the Christian part, because Beirut was not separated before the war, and there is the one who decided to move and the one who decided not to move. And the work of my father was between the two parts of the city. So the aunts of my mother were decided to stay from the other part. So all my childhood, we were crossing. It was something that I always did. So with Jocelyne, I didn't discover the city, I knew it. But what I discovered is much more deep. It's because our society is a very sectarian society, where not only as a sectarian as religious side, but also society side, and how you should be and where is your place. And Jocelyne, she just gave me the liberty of thinking. She was the lady that is from my generation, the generation of my parents, that taught me that adults can be different thinkers, not in the box. She learned me to think out of the box, and that was a great experience. Okay, I didn't discover West and East, but I discovered in my mind the large city as a whole, the country. With her, we went to north and south just to find the movies. I discovered liberty through Jocelyne, and this gave me hope for my adult days. Now I'm older than her when I met her. That's hard, but at the time, it was for me, wow, a discovery. Adults can be fun, can be different, can be open mind. I'm from a very conservative family. My parents they just did everything on the right track. And then this was a great opener, life opener.
Yes, and talking about this open-minded side, which is really exposed in all Jocelyne Saab movies, what really attracts me, which called my attention, is that Jocelyne Saab always puts the woman as the main character, or at least she tries to put the focus on the woman, the feminine side. And we can see this is in A Suspended Life. And after that, after another club, cinema club that I prepared here in Florianopolis, I chose to show Dunia, Kiss Me Not in the Eyes, which is another Jocelyne Saab movie. And also, once again, the woman is the main character in this film. This movie, Once Upon a Time, Beirut, has changed also your way to see feminism and your relationship as a woman with your country, with all this stuff, the relationship between feminism, women's rights, and Lebanese reality. This has changed, and you thought about that at the time. And after that, MYRNA can talk about this also.
To tell you the truth, it's no, because at this age, at 19, you think that the word is yours. So I was not surprised to have a role and to give a role to the woman. Now it's just with an anthropologic point of view, you can watch this. But at this time, yes, I could eat the word and it was normal. it was what I can say. It's that because I was a woman, lots of doors open easily, because when we went to see the producer, he was happy to have two ladies coming and chatting with him, and so the things were easier. And I discovered this all my life in cinema, that Arabic men like to work with women if it's for, if they don't come from up. If they are here just to chat, they will facilitate things. If they are coming for power, they will block. So that's it, not more than this for the woman's side. But for sure, Jocelyne gave in all her work a very big place to the woman, and when you are an adult, you can see that it's very important in this part of the world.
What about you, Myrna?
Yeah, I agree with Michelle. At the time, it just didn't occur even after the film not, but what I had it more on a personal level. I learned to be more free with her, like, and have more confidence. And yeah, we talked a lot behind the scenes, like when we stopped shooting, we talked a lot about being free as a woman and daring and being more brave in taking decisions and not, you know, being scared. And there was one scene that triggered this. I had to kiss the cousin of Michelle, who was an actor, just, you know, like a kiss. I think you know it from his black and white. And it took them a day to shoot the scene because I refused to kiss him. I was 17. I was, you know, never met a boy. I was in a non-school with hardly 2 boys in the school. I drove them crazy. At one point, they started all kissing each other on the set. Jocelyne was the cameraman. And I did it at the end, but, and it was triggering a lot of talks after with Jocelyne that helped me see the world a bit differently. And yes, and learn more and be more free. But it took time. It doesn't mean that after this kiss I became free and wild. No, it took time, but it was a lesson. So I can talk about this more.
I have to add something about this. 2 points. First, I said to Jocelyne, I will not kiss anyone during the film, because when there was this kissing scene, I told her, I can't do it. And Myrna said, okay, I will do it. So that's why we are just hugging with my lover in the film, and she's kissing the small smack in the film. But the other point that I just remember, it's after the movie, after the shooting, my father once told me, you never asked me if you could act in the movie. And I looked at him, I said, I never thought I had to ask you if I could act in a movie. That didn't even cross my mind. And he said, but yes, you should have asked. I said, okay, now it's done. We won't talk about it. So I didn't have at all this thinking about me being a girl in the movie.
But and how this now that you still work with arts and visual arts and filmmaking, if you still work with visual arts and filmmaking, how this legacy is part of your work nowadays, how this is connected to your work nowadays, this legacy, this gaze on the free mind and the opportunity to feel free, to not ask your father to make the film, or Myrna to kiss the guy and feel okay, it's done, it's okay. How this free opportunity, the opportunity to feel free once again, how this connects to your nowadays reality as a producer or filmmaker or actress or whatever you do in your daily life.
Well, I don't know. I don't think about it too much because I'm in Germany. So I am anyway, I have to, of course, there are always limits, obstacles, things you have to think of. But somehow our parents, they were strict of course, in my case, Jocelyne had to come home and ask for permission that I play in the movie. I was 17. And my parents were reluctant and they were not sure, but then it happened. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's so many years now. It was a lesson, but it's so many things that made that I come to a point where I feel free and I can do my work as an artist freely without limitation. But yeah, I don't know if there is any connection. It's a good question, but I think it's like it was building up. This was the start with Jocelyne. Jocelyne opened the door, actually. Opened the door, as I said, for confidence, for following, also doing what I wanted, to follow my dream and stick to it. Because for me, it was a battle. I wanted to do art and film, but my family was against. So it was a continuous battle for me to get to where I am today. Still today, they have doubts and they are scared and they say, yeah, go do some other job. So she was always behind and saying, believe in yourself and don't listen, just believe in what you do and keep on. So this is what I keep, actually. And the lesson I have is I never gave up, like her. She never gave up, despite all the difficulties she had on a private and not private and financial. She never gave up till the last minute. She was still working. And this is, so I chapeau for her, because she had a tough life.
From my side, like Myrna, I never asked myself this question, but as I told you, for me, the work with Jocelyne was the beginning of everything. She taught me the freedom of thinking. She taught me not to give up, to fight for everything. And when I came back from Paris, because my parents decided to that I can't stay anymore in Paris, so I came back to Lebanon. I went to work in a production house that were doing commercial, and here I felt the difference with producer director that was a man and that was looking at me as the small 22 years old girl, that every time I opened my mouth to say something, he was just letting me shut up. And during 1.5 years, it was like this. And I could see every day the difference between the generosity of Jocelyne that was pushing me to tell me, you are someone and you can, and this guy who was saying, who is she? Why is she taking decision? Why is she doing? And this balance between the generosity and the ungenerosity, if you want to call it like this. And then all what Jocelyne gave me the strength very, very young to decide to say no and to go with a friend and open a production house, because our dream was to do editing, was to do cinema, was to do, and with my small talking with Jocelyne and all this confidence that she gave me before, at the age of 24, I opened my production house, and then 2 or 3 years later, Jocelyne was again on my path. For sure, we met every time she came to Lebanon, or when I went to Paris, we saw each other as friends. But in 1997, I think she sent me a movie with a French producer that was producing a film for Mahza Alwash, an Algerian director, and I needed a production house in Beirut. I was 26 years old. I had no experience in producing. We were doing small production, corporate. We were doing small feature, short films and editing. And then I received this feature to produce. And she said, no other producer in Beirut other than Michele. It was, so I had the script and I had to do a budget, and it was really tough, but because she gave me this confidence in myself, I did it. I did it with all my heart, with all what she taught to me, with all my strengths. And I had the chance also to have a French producer that had a son of my age and didn't want to break me. She took me also, it was another lady who decided to help me to do this movie so young and not to try to, but for sure the strength of Jocelyne helped me doing this movie, and after this I could produce other movies where one of them, MYRNA, was one of the main actors. And then I left production because it was not where I wanted to be, and I wanted to be an editor. As I began with Jocelyne, Jocelyne gave me the first chance to be in the editing process, and I went back to editing since then. So, and she's there, Jocelyne, with her strength every day. And I went to see her 1 month before she passed away because I knew she was not good. And I arrived at her place knowing that I was saying goodbye, but she was here sitting on the editing table doing one more project till the end, asking me if I could do the sound design in Beirut because she needed this project to be finished. And she was an amazing lady, always wanting to go more far away, more just to arrive where she need to arrive, whatever difficulty she will have, whatever time it will take. She was always fighting, working, and this is the real lesson, big lesson. When I'm tired in Beirut and I say, oh, I just want to turn the page and I think of Jocelyne, or with all the difficulty that MYRNA was talking about, that was always with a new project, with new dreams, with new things to do in life, with new crew, always enthusiastic. And that's a lesson of life.
You know, what you talk about, Jocelyne, is the same feeling I had when I had a short conversation by telephone. I had the chance, the honor to talk to her by telephone when I decided to show her movie and ask the permission to show it here. It was a non-lucrative but it was, you know, it was something I needed to ask for her permission. And she was so nice. She was so, you know, open to new proposals and all that stuff. And she explained me at least the idea she had to compose the movie. And I asked her why I asked you about this feminine side, because I asked her, why do you choose 2 girls specifically? Because I wanted to the young female gaze of the city. Then I decided even the color of your hair was purple. She said it was something amazing to see one brunette and one blonde girl and both interacting, and it was just this side, you know. And there is a particular scene in the movie where you're going to see Mr. Farouk, and you are in a cab, and the driver tries to talk to you. You talk a lot. He complains because the 2 girls talk a lot. You're blindfolded, but you, Michelle, you took off your the fold, you know, and MYRNA, she continues using the blindfold. And in front of the car, there is a man on a wheelchair while passing the destroyed part of Beirut. How do you see this? How do you describe that experience? How was that scene and this part of the so strong part of the film? How do you see that?
For me, this is my city. So it was not something surprising to be here in these conditions. It was our everyday life. And the text I'm saying, it's what I wrote. I said, this is the heart of my city with the ruins. I cannot remember in English, c'est le cœur de ma ville, ces ruines sont mes ruines à moi, because I wrote this. It was my feeling about my city. And so it didn't surprise us to be in this cab with this guy, because it was, don't forget, we lived there, Myrna and me, for 15 years during the war. Even if we went, I went sometimes to Paris, but it was our city. And as I told you, I always crossed with my parents, crossing through this part of the city that was completely destroyed. And at the minute the war stopped, I was there taking pictures, going there, feeling that, please don't take this city from me. It's my city, it's where I grew up. Don't do it Hong Kong or New York or whatever. Just keep it with its soul. And I was just afraid to lose this soul. So this scene in particular is very meaningful for me because it's very personal.
Yeah, it's the same like Michelle. I grew up with the city. I was more shocked when I saw it reconstructed. There I was shocked. So, but this is how we grew up. It became like our normality, which is dangerous, by the way. But yeah, actually it was fun being in this cab and talking and laughing. It was nothing shocking for us because it was like our decor and what we know. And that's why later on I did a movie called Berlin Beirut, where I criticized a little bit this and the reconstruction and what happened to Beirut. And it's not that I wanted to stay destroyed, but somehow they took a bit the soul of the city, what Michelle is talking about somehow. And again and again and again and again lately, like 2 years ago, it was smashed. So it's a city that is unbelievable. What it goes through and stands up again. And
what I would like to add on this point is it's much more harmful to see Beirut today after the blast than by then, because by then it was our normality. After the blast, it was earthquake, atomic. It was too hard to see again the destruction. Too hard. This was a shock. If you put today a film going through the ruins of the blast, is more harmful than by then, where it was our everyday scenery.
In fact, I had during this film festival organized by Ana Lu and Partisan Films, I had the opportunity to discuss with other filmmakers and critics about the feeling that Beirut would be a woman who needs to reconstruct herself, to fight for her reconstruction. And one of the critics said, no, I don't think so, because all male writers and filmmakers depict Beirut as a woman. And I don't think Jocelyne tried to depict Beirut as an extension of the feminine side, the feminine side of Lebanon. And then I started to think about maybe that there is a difference between a male writer or filmmaking showing Beirut as a woman and a female filmmaker or writer or artist, because Jocelyne was also a visual artist, not only a filmmaker and so on. So a different look to construct Beirut as a woman would be different from the gaze, from the look of a man and the look of a woman. What do you think about that? Do you believe that in any moment Jocelyne tried to show Beirut as a woman, or is this is a misconception I put in my mind?
Well, for me, yes, for sure, she was putting Beirut as a woman, for sure. About our discussion, Beirut for her was a woman, was a myth, was a story. But as I remember, she was always talking about Beirut as a feminine side of, not at all as a man, always talking about Beirut as a woman that is shaken, a woman that is being constructed, a woman that is being aggressed, a woman that is being raped, a woman that has her story that is seducing us. And in the film, she's trying to show the seduction of this movie, the city, and the repulsion, and she always talked about moving, shaking about this city because she felt her inside her, I think.
I don't have anything to add. I mean, Michelle said it all, but I remember Jocelyne always repeated that Beirut is a city she hates and loves at the same time. So she had always this expression often, like, and we all have this feeling of loving the city so much and hating it at the same time because of all the mess that happens there continuously.
Yeah, because I thought this this relationship, if we think about the history of the city, once she was called Julia Augusta by the Greeks and the Roman Empire, then it was always, you know, just like the face of a woman. So that was the discussion we had here. And I agree with you. That was, I thought, I became, you know, just my mind became, I started to think about, do I really believe that? Yes, indeed, I believe. And it's completely different, the depiction of a male artist and the depiction of a female artist from a city. And that's what she showed the two girls. But the two girls are not the only character. There is also Mr. Farouk. How was the relationship between you and the actor who played the role of Mr. Farouk? How do you met him? How was to shoot, to, you know, to participate in the movie with him and share the story with him? How was for each one of you?
I think it was another actor who was going to play the role. I don't remember, and I don't know how Mr. Farouk came. He had like the visually like how Jocelyne imagined him, but she had a hard time with him because he was not memorizing the text. So it was tough. We had to wait and repeat. Sometimes she had to tell him the sentences and he had to repeat after her. And you feel it in the movie. He's like battling with the words. Yeah, we had a nice time with him. He's like a nice grandpa for us because we were kids somehow. But the idea of him having this archive was wonderful. Actually, my grandpa also was a film distributor. So I grew up a bit like with a man like him. But yeah, the relationship with Michelle was amazing because we became friends and we are still friends today. This I remember very powerfully. With him, it was because his scenes were not too long. He came just for the shooting and left. So we didn't develop any kind of relationship. But what we developed was me, Michelle, and Jocelyne. This was very strong and stayed, and still today, even if she's not here, we are still connected.
Yes, that I have the same souvenir. Mr. Farouk, his name was Emile. He forgot everything all the time. It was really a headache to shoot the scenes. Jocelyne chose him. First of all, we did a big casting and we had many actors who came to do this role and powerful men. But I think also she had a budget issue. So she preferred to take someone that was not professional for this role. And his look was inspiring. So half francophone, half bourgeois, and his look inspired her. And when she wrote the script, she knew him already. And but really, it was difficult because he forgot. And from my side, I knew a bit MYRNA before the shooting. We were in the same school, a bit older than her, but we knew each other, and then we became very much friends. But on the shooting, I was also in my role, technical role. I was assisting Jocelyne for everything that was production and the assistant director, and she had an issue with her first assistant. So I was here doing the feuille de service, what we have to do, what we have to prepare for the next day. So I didn't have time to spend with Mr. Farouk. I was just working to help as much as I could Jocelyne.
And it is amazing to see how the three characters interact, and it's part of this non-linear, this fractured narrative. And as we see that in Europe, and even for you who took part of the film, was confusing, and how the Lebanese society received the film. How was the reception, and how was the reception even for your friends and family, and how was that? Did they feel the same confusion? How was for Lebanese society? We know that here in Brazil or in Europe, it was just a complete mess for them, for the audience, but I'd like to know how it was for Lebanese society, this movie.
Okay, I think when it first came out in the movies, very, very few people watched it. And my friend who watched it didn't appreciate it, I think. They went there, there was no this they didn't understand it, I think. But now, I had a friend who watched it in 1995 or 6, and who watched it 2 years ago when it was in the festival, and they said to me, it's 2 different movies. Now it's wow. Then we could not receive it. It was too close to the war. We were too young. So this is my feeling, because it didn't pass for a long time in the cinema, and there was no videos, and they show it in university, so people in university, they like it. But the real screening, as I felt it, was 2 years ago, really. This is from my side. Myrna?
Yeah, in my case, I remember that some friends loved it very much and they wanted to see it again, but it's because it's a movie that you can rewatch, as you don't remember. After watching it, you don't remember anything. So, and some others who didn't like it and didn't understand anything, it was also confusing for them. But I remember, because I took over after, when we finished the film, I was also assisting Jocelyne. I remember that I brought all schools of all Lebanon almost to watch it at the Centre Culturel Français. And it was interesting to see the kids that were a bit older. The reaction was more interesting. They had a lot of questions. They were interested. And the younger ones, they were just following the images, but they didn't understand anything. So I wonder now, 20 years later, how they would react if they rewatched this movie. But as Michelle said, it's like you have mixed feelings, depending on your back history, what you lived in Lebanon, what you know also, because it's somehow a docu fiction. It's not only a fiction. So you have to have some information about the history to understand it perfectly. But for me, it's a masterpiece. When I watched it 2 years ago, also in Frankfurt with her. She came to present it here, and with my kids as well. And it was a different experience. I don't know, we were extremely emotional, all of us, and we cried, and we were more connected to it now than before, back then.
I totally agree when you say that it is a masterpiece. It is indeed. Then I was, I felt lucky enough to get in touch with her films and her work as a filmmaker, and by specifically this one, which bouleverse, that changed me a lot, changed my point of view from a lot of things, because we do this exercise. whenever we go out to see another culture, the history of another country, we start to question ourselves, our own culture and our own history, and how this makes us feel, you know. And this was the main idea, I think, when I saw it for the first time. I saw the movie many times to understand, to get the heart of the movie, but it took me some time to understand, and also to question my own community, my own origins, and so on. So it is a masterpiece indeed. Now to finish this fantastic conversation, and I can say you both really have the same energy Jocelyne had. I feel so, you know, I feel so comfortable, so okay to talk to you, to ask you questions as if I know you a long time ago. And it was the same feeling when I talked to Jocelyne by telephone and we exchanged emails too. The same feeling. Then I realized that you really inherited her open-mindedness, her heart, her way to see the world. And this is something amazing for me. I really thank you. And to finish this fantastic conversation, I would like to ask you many more questions, but we have, unluckily, we have a limit of time. So I'd like to know, what are your future projects? What are your future plans in movie or in your work career? What do you have in mind for the future, and how this connects with all the work you have done by now?
Okay, so me, as I told you, I'm an editor, so I edit movies. I work with many filmmakers in Lebanon. I do a little production, but now I have 2 small babies project. I have one is that I'm writing small stories for literature, and another one that is a bigger is I wrote a screenplay feature about the history of a woman also that is struggling in this city and is fighting with her couple. And this is my small baby that I hope I can pass and be a director as Jocelyne, on Jocelyne's path. And I'm trying. I'm in the process of finishing the rewriting, and I cross my finger. Maybe one day I'll show my film in Brazil. I hope so. So that's it. This is my big project now. But the situation of the country, I don't know if I will be able to shoot. I hope in 1 year. Let us cross our finger, and I hope so.
Yeah, we too. It would be great for us too.
So for me, I wrote many projects the past 6 years, different projects, features and documentaries. I'm a single mom, so I have 2 kids. So this was my dedication the past 6 years, mostly for them. So I was more focused on writing, and now the priority is a feature film called Pink. I don't know if it will change. The title will change, and hopefully I finish the rewriting soon, so we can pass to the production, or financing for the production. Let's see. But I have also a documentary I'm developing with a nice producer, a more funny documentary, fun.
So another genre.
Yeah, maybe. we need to laugh. I think after these 2 years, we need some likeness, and to laugh, and to see a little bit more positive in the world, you know, and listen to good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Not only you in Lebanon, but the whole world, and we in Brazil also. We need good news. We need hope. We need to laugh and to relieve the pressure. You know, it has been a hard time for us too.
And we are connected. I mean, it's a bowl. We have to realize this, that if you are not well, we will not be well again, you know. So it's all connected, it's a chain, and I hope the world will realize this and start to change. I mean, slowly.
Yeah, well, we all hope so. Michelle, for me, it was a pleasure to talk to you. It is amazing to, even through a camera, but it is amazing to see you, to talk to you. I remember sometimes I have flashes in my memory of parts of the movie, and that makes me feel really happy. And thank once again to the organization Ana Lu and Partisan Films for this fantastic occasion. And I hope to continue talking to you and changing ideas, because for me it was, you know, ça m'a réchauffé le cœur.
Merci, Fedra. I would like also to thank you, Ana Lu, Fernanda, and Raquel, who did a wonderful translation that we didn't hear, but I see her very enthusiastic doing it with a smile all the time. So thank you. And yes, we definitely all stay in touch. And if you come to Berlin, would be nice to go
next year I have a plan to spend some time in Luxembourg. Then why not passing by Berlin and taking a cup of coffee and talking about movies and the future? That would be great. And one day you'll also see Michelle even in Paris, for example, and or even if you come to Brazil.
She will come to Berlin. It will be a reason for her to come to Berlin.
Yes, really, thank you. It's always great pleasure to talk about Jocelyne and this experience. It's I can talk about it for hours.
Yeah, me too. I couldn't ask you any questions. I still have many questions, but unfortunately we have a limit of time. And but I know we're gonna keep in touch, and this conversation will continue, and the friendship too.
Yeah, many thanks.
Obrigada.
Obrigada também.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me and the festival to see this connection and this conversation after 20 years the film was made. And I wish all the best for your projects, for your future, and may Jocelyne's memory be remembered.
Thank
Thank you for attending, for accepting so openly to come and talk. Thank you, Fedra, for the moderation. Thank you, Raquel, for this wonderful translation. Thank you who is watching us. And well, Once Upon a Time Beirut is available until tomorrow, June 27th. And so check our website, cinemaarabefeminino.com, and watch the film. We have other 7 films directed by Jocelyne Saab. So check them there in our website. Tomorrow we are having the rest of the book Beirut Noir by Iman Humaydan. So if you haven't taken part of the raft, check our Instagram, check our social media, because it's a nice book, and I think it connects a lot with Jocelyne's work. So yeah, thank you for coming, thank you for watching, thank you for following our festival. Thank you for everybody who attended it, and have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.